There we go. Broadcast live. All right. All right.
Oh,
You good to
I'm
go?
on live.
There we go. Live on YouTube. All right, everybody. Let's start this podcast. He joined on Instagram. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 102. If I can count, I believe. I didn't fact check myself on that, but that's what I think it is, so we're going to roll with it. Another exciting episode, another live broadcast on Instagram, on YouTube, another special guest. We got Aiden Hoffman on the live stream on YouTube. If you're watching, it's a little messed up again. I've got half the screen as me and a quarter of the screen as Aiden. So, hey, it's better than nothing. We're getting closer every week. And speaking of second chances, Aiden, I think we all deserve a second chance. So it's that time of the year. Sweet 16 is set. If you guys watch the first couple of weeks at all, let me maybe I should check and make sure this is recording. Hello. Yeah, that'd be a good start. I knew something felt wrong. Um, so Aiden, I don't even know where to start. We'll get to our second chance brackets in a minute, and we'll get to me bragging about my bracket eventually. First, I guess, what do you think is like? What's the first storyline that pops in your head after the first technically 5 days of March Madness?
Well, the first storyline obviously is Oral Roberts making it to the Sweet 16 for anyone who doesn't live under a rock. Kevin O'Banner and Max Abmas led that team. Honestly, they're two of the best players in this tournament. Like, you could argue that they're two of the top 5, 10 best players. I don't know how they went under the radar. I mean, obviously because they're Oral Roberts, but I mean, these two guys are just leading this team. It's unbelievable. Just the grit and heart that this team shows, and the talent of O'Bannon is unbelievable.
Yeah, you're right. I think they're what are the two highest scoring leaders or combined scoring leaders, whatever the stat is there. You could argue them. I think maybe I'm blanking on his name. Jeremiah Robinson Earl on Villanova. The guy Cameron Krutwig from Loyola, and those might be your best players in the tournament right now, I guess. Right? I'm trying to think of another, but those are. I get Buddy Boeheim too. Would be a guy who is just super hot right now.
I mean, ridiculously good.
But yeah, I mean, for everybody, I think my headlines would be what you said. Obviously, the second ever 15 seed making the Sweet 16. And it's funny because multiple times I was asked for people like, what's your like first like advice to give me? It was people that were joining the Stoplight Enthusiast group but like aren't sports people. And the first thing I told them was just fill out all the ones and twos for the first round and then start from there. I was like, that's how I always fill out my brackets. And I led them astray. That wasn't fair on me. I got an unfair advantage on them. I mean, I didn't have it either, so it didn't help me in any way. I don't think not many people had Oral Roberts unless you probably went there. But then I think my second storyline is the Pac-12.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
It's like Bill Walton's Final Four that like Pash like tweeted before the tournament. He's like Walton's Final Four, and it was like 5 teams, and they were just all Pac-12 teams. But I mean, wow. Like Bill Walton might be right, man. Conference of Champions looking like champions so far. It's that's been, and honestly, like this is where I start to pat myself on the back, and people are gonna get sick of me by the end of this episode. But I was hot on the Pac-12 all year, man, and it's finally starting to show here. I mean, my last Dave's Dugout top 40 is actually not like. It's not terrible, man. I mean, it's way better than at least the AP polls and other things like that. I mean, the only team in my top 7 that is out so far is Illinois. So, like, in my top rankings, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of my top 8 teams are still alive. That's like That's crazy because that's not true if you ask anyone else. like that is because most people had Iowa and Ohio State up there in that top 8 where I didn't, but
Hmm.
I had them in the top 14, but not. So I mean Texas, Iowa, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, West Virginia, Virginia, Kansas. We've seen all them get knocked out, but my top 7 teams, man, are looking strong, and we have to hope Alabama, Houston, Arkansas, and Florida State are sticking in there. I told you, people, Arkansas and Florida State should be 2 or 3 seeds, and look at them. They're that's it. That's all I got. We'll see you next time. Um, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, do you even want to like review what happened, or should we just do more of like a Sweet 16 preview? Because there's so much that happened. I don't even we could do it, but
I mean, I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, I guess we could talk about what happened, like in
the,
our Sweet 16 preview. Like we could talk about the team's road there, like if anything stood out.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we should at least talk about what happened a little. I mean, that's why we all watch is for the
What happened?
madness. I mean,
Yeah.
um, so we'll just I mean, let's go. I guess the way we did last episode, just region by region, and kind of what stood out to you. Um, 8-9 game, called it a coin flip, led it in Oklahoma's favor. That's just, I mean, you just get lucky there. You pick one or the other. Creighton's an interesting one, Aiden. I actually still have them in the Sweet 16. It was like I went out on a limb because they were looking sketchy at the end of the year, but
I agree.
my thought process was I'm going to trust a team that I had ranked in like the top 5 preseason to come around. And you know what, Aiden? I did that on my left side of my bracket, and that's the side of my bracket that if people have seen on my like stories and stuff is looking really good. For some reason, I didn't follow my own logic with the right side. Like I didn't do that with Wisconsin. I didn't do that with Villanova, and Villanova was the 3rd ranked preseason team. If you ask anybody, I mean, I get right now they don't have their point guard, but when you're the preseason number 3 team, I think we all should have showed them a little more respect because I was hot on the Winthrop train for a 12-5 upset, and we didn't get that. Um, do you agree or disagree with any of that so far? I don't know. I was kind of just
I would say I'm impressed by Creighton getting to the Sweet 16, but they barely sweep by UCSB, and then they beat a number 13 Ohio State or Ohio team. But I mean, I guess you could say I'm surprised they're in the Sweet 16, but I guess you can say most of the breaks have gone their way at this point.
yeah. There's actually I feel that way with I forget I don't even remember what team it was right now. When we start talking about it, I'll remember it. But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Virginia was a COVID, whatever team coming in. I think a lot of people actually had that as like a 12 versus 13. So I don't think a lot of people would have been surprised here with a 12 or a 13 in the Sweet 16. And we're all just wrong, and we got it in other places where we didn't expect it. USC, I mean, I expected them to win one game. 2, I'm impressed with myself, honestly, that I picked it. Uh, Kansas is another one. I was like, I think they'll make it, but with the COVID thing, who knew? I mean, I think we all kind of were expecting an upset there and didn't get it. And then USC versus Kansas, Aiden, I think was one of the most surprising outcomes.
Absolutely.
I mean, USC ended up being the favorite at tip-off by a couple points, but what did they ended up winning by like 20 or
30.
something, right? It was
30.
Oh my god. I think it was the
30
worst.
spot.
Wasn't it the worst loss in Kansas history?
34 points.
Yeah, that's just I mean, that's some madness that I mean, nobody the worst loss in Kansas history in a tournament. I mean, that's like how do you predict that? That's not that's
Yeah.
and I was on a betting roll, and that is actually the game. It was the last game of the day. I had Kansas like plus 5 or 10. I was like, they're not going to lose by double digits. Even if they do lose, they lost by 34. 34?
Yeah, it's amazing how much COVID deflated them. I mean, you saw how good they were playing in the Big 12 tournament. COVID strikes, not even near what the same team they used to be.
Yeah, it's clearly, as we've seen with other teams too, obviously Baylor comes to mind, but you're just not the same for 2 weeks at least. It's crazy. And I think that's a reason. I think a lot of Big Ten fans are going to put an asterisk next to this year's tournament.
Yeah,
Um, but then, yeah, Oregon over Iowa. I mean,
not
I,
surprised.
I called it. I just thought Iowa. I mean, the storyline a month ago was Iowa can't defend, and then for some reason the media turned the storyline into Iowa's the going to make the Final Four, and I just wasn't. You got to be able to defend. I don't know. That was my thought process there. Did you have them going on, or did you have Oregon too? I thought.
I think, I mean, I made a couple brackets, but I was a proponent of the Oregon upset over them. I thought it could happen, and I thought that it was bound. I thought it was going to happen. I mean, Oregon is highly underrated. I mean, with Amorier and Duarte, I think someone said that Duarte would be known as like a top five player in the nation if he was on a blue blood team, which is absolutely true because that dude can just carry a team, and he really led them in their 2 wins. And I mean, Oregon has good history in the tournament. I mean, they have Final Fours and they make it to Sweet 16s, and Dana Altman's a good coach in the tournament. I mean, so I don't think it's a big surprise that they took off Iowa. And Iowa honestly looked they were pretty shaky all year. I mean, they did win their fair share of games, but I mean there was some uncertainty there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, I think he would definitely be. And we say this, I mean, all the time with the West Coast East Coast bias. I think people would know his name if half of his games weren't on at midnight on the East Coast. It's just one of those things, I
Or
guess.
or if you're in a fantasy league.
And you have a reason to stay up. Um, but then I guess Aiden will just go down to the East next. Michigan kind of everybody's picked to not make it because of livers, and this is not a college basketball educated take at all, but this was kind of my feeling about it. Was I just had a feeling it was going to be madness because of COVID and all yada yada yada. But I was like, everyone's picking against Michigan. I was like, what a story would it be if they could just keep winning when they're the one seed everybody picks to lose, and if they just win and somehow get livers back eventually. So,
Mhm.
so in my brackets, I kind of just rooted for that. I mean, that's like a terrible reason to pick it. But on the other end, it's, I guess, kind of like what we're seeing with Villanova is when you're one of the best teams with one of the, I mean, arguably the coach of the year everyone was calling for, you lose a player, yeah, maybe you're not gonna win the national championship, but clearly they're still, I mean, there were talks they were as good as Baylor and Gonzaga there for a while.
Yeah.
Clearly they're still good enough without their star player. I think we all thought they'd be a little worse. Is that fair?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, definitely I definitely thought that they weren't going to be as good as they were in the tournament to where they are now. I mean, but again, they're another 5 seed. Like Creighton, squeak past the 12. Not squeaked. I mean, they won by 10. That's a pretty convincing win. But then they beat a 13 seed in North Texas. So I guess you could say the breaks weren't falling their way with the injuries, but then they got a 13 seed in the second round. I mean, I guess things started to go their way along with good coaching. I mean, how do you want to look at it? It depends on what point of view you want to look at it. Is it good coaching by Jay Wright, or is it a little bit of luck mixed with good coaching and ambition from the players? I mean, it's another 12 and 13 victories by the 5 seed. So, I mean, I'm unimpressed. I mean, they did what they had to do. They're a national champion program. They've been at the top for a long time. So, I mean, I expect them to make it to the Sweet 16. But just, I'll say now that they're done. They're done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah, that's a good point with Villanova too. I was talking more with Michigan, but I mean, kind of similar regards. Um, Same kind of situation, I guess. But and then back down to Michigan's region. If we do LSU Michigan was actually a good game, and that was actually the upset a lot of people were calling. If we do Colorado Florida State, I mean, what is that, the 4-5 game? I think everybody kind of could coin flip. I've just really liked Florida State all this while. Um, I think Texas is probably a big bracket buster for a lot of people. I think Texas was like a sleeper
Yeah.
Final Four pick for people. That's probably one of the most. I even actually had them to the Elite Eight. I had them upsetting Alabama. I had a feeling Alabama was going to do what they did and have a night where they just were on fire from three because that's what they do. And
Hmm.
I was like, maybe they'll be on fire, and then Texas will catch them on a cold night. I think maybe that's still possible. I don't know if it's as possible with UCLA in the spot there, but anything's possible when you've made it this far. I guess clearly, right?
Yeah.
You're doing something right. But what are your thoughts on Alabama? Are they looking like they could make 17 threes
I'm,
again here a couple times?
I think Alabama's good for another win or two, and I think they can make the Final Four. I think, honestly, I think Michigan is out to prove something, like you said. I kind of backtracked off Michigan towards Villanova, but I'm impressed by Michigan's win over LSU. I mean, it was a good game, 10-point loss, I think, for LSU, but I don't think the scoreboard really indicates how good of a game it really was because Cam Thomas had a phenomenal game along with Javante Smart. But I think Michigan and Alabama, if it does happen, is going to be an incredible Elite Eight matchup. That's going to be a fast run and gun game, and I don't know. I think Alabama can get it done. I think that they have what it takes to make the Final Four, and I think they look like they're playing comfortable and they're playing well right now.
Yeah, that's an intriguing region. We'll get to I guess our picks on it here in a bit. Um, then I guess we'll go back up to Baylor's region where I know obviously you probably hate this region. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of us pick that 8-9 game. It's like a coin flip. I think a lot of us you kind of just go with the blue blood. You're like, hey, in a coin flip game, I'm gonna take a Hall of Fame coach. Uh, and man, like I said, flip a coin and we're all wrong. But um, whatever on that one. Villanova, you mentioned, you kind of, yeah, you put it perfectly. The 12 and the 13 there. We'll see. Actually, that spread's a little closer than I think it should be, but we'll get to that in a minute. Um, Texas Tech and Arkansas, man, that actually might be like we could have led with that. Like I think that was one of the best games I've seen, and then those are two teams I've been really hot on all year, especially Arkansas. Texas Tech lost a couple too many games for me to actually be really hot on them, but Arkansas, I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Must Bus. How about you?
Yeah, that was an incredible game. I think it was 68-66. Arkansas squeezed by. I honestly thought Texas Tech was going to take it. I think I picked Texas Tech in my bracket. I liked what they had. I liked the experience, and I liked the guard play of McClung and Edwards. But I mean, Arkansas proving strong, making it to the Sweet 16 when they're not typically known as a tournament team. And I mean, can they win another game? Absolutely. They got a good opportunity against Oral Roberts coming up.
Yeah, I think we could almost book that one, but I mean we'll
You
see
never know.
because yeah, like I said,
Crazier things have happened. Actually, no, crazier things haven't happened. I don't
I
think
was
there's ever been a 15 of the Elite Eight.
I was gonna say I don't think it has yet, has it? But
No.
hey, a 16 had never beat a one. We never thought that would happen, and it finally did. So this would be crazy though if that's the first time ever for that. That would be wild. Speaking of that little region there, part of the region, I think we all kind of. I don't know. I wasn't hot on either Florida State or Virginia Tech, and I had Florida winnings and they lost, so I kind of like lost interest in it almost. Actually think I heard on another podcast they were talking about this. Whereas it's almost not as big of a story with Oral Roberts this time as it was with Fuller Gulf Coast and Dunk City. That
Yeah.
almost felt like it had more hype around it than Oral Roberts does, and I don't know if it's because that winner of the 7-10 game wasn't that exciting, or I mean it still is a huge story. I mean like we said, I mean we led with it. I mean like it's like that's the story, but for some reason it doesn't feel as. Am I right there, or do you still think it's just as crazy?
I think it's just as crazy. I mean, these two players that are leading Oral Roberts are just playing out of their minds, and they have not, at least not from what I've seen, gotten any national attention this year. And when you name a brand Dunk City, it sounds glorious and it sounds fun. And I mean, the 7-10 game, I watched that game. Like that was a fun game to watch. Like that was back and forth, and I think Virginia Tech hit a three to send it to overtime, which blew my mind, blew my socks off, because the guy missed a three before, and then he comes back and he elevates and he hits it to send it to overtime. I mean, and then overtime was kind of disappointing because I picked Virginia Tech. But that was a fun game to watch. Like that was madness too. But I mean, Florida, I was down on, and they won. I mean, and Virginia Tech hadn't really played, so I mean, I guess those two teams' resumes leading up to the tournament weren't very exciting. Hence, maybe why the next game wasn't so exciting. I mean, a 15 seed winning in the round of 32 is always pretty exciting. I mean, but then again, it comes back to the COVID year because, like, in a regular year, you're playing what, like 35, 33 games before the tournament, and these teams have only played what, like 20, 25. Like, I mean, when you miss out on all these games, I guess the excitement kind of loses it. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I was just looking too. It was that 7-10 game was a 1 point spread, so I mean, we knew it was gonna be a good game. I guess I more meant like I just didn't have faith in them getting far. Even though, as I say that, I think I had them beating Ohio State because I had Ohio State going out. So I don't even know what I'm talking about. But um, Arkansas, that's the move. That's the key takeaway. Key takeaway here. Um, and then in the Midwest is just, I mean, this is like, where do you even start? This is absolutely, and I think for everybody, just equally as crazy. Um, a lot of people had Illinois going to the Final Four, the championship even, beating Gonzaga in the championship, and they couldn't have been more wrong, man. I mean, that was such a streaky team. Were they a good team? Did I think they could make the Final Four? Yes, but to win 6 games in a row, you can't be streaky. You got to be a consistent. Like there's certain boxes you have to check, and
Yeah.
I don't know how that got by so many big names in the sport. I don't. It really, I feel like people got like locked into the allure of two really good players, which I mean, granted, I guess when you have two of the best players in the country, there should be allure near it. But you have to
Yeah,
go.
I mean, like, I just watching that Loyola Chicago Illinois game. I mean, Loyola Chicago. I mean, I guess you could say cliche. They just wanted it more. Crutwig was playing as hard as that whole team was up on it on the defensive end and making things happen on the offensive end. I mean, honestly, I think my biggest takeaway from that game is I watched Illinois. They looked deflated, they looked lazy, and they looked like they just looked flat out beat. Like they didn't look like they showed up like they wanted to play, and it was honestly sad to see because they had such a great year for the program, best since 2005 when they lost to North Carolina in the national championship. Had to throw that in there. But they just looked so deflated, and like it was honestly upsetting because I was excited to see them play and have some energy in the tournament, and they came out flat. That's flat out. They came out flat, and they got outplayed, and they got out hustled. And Loyola Chicago was probably underseeded a lot, like because I mean they're number one defensive team in Ken Palm, and I mean they had no hiccups all year. So to have them as an 8 seed is very tough 8 seed. But I mean just the fact that Illinois came out so flat is kind of disappointing for me.
Yeah, that's the most. I mean, when I called Loyola as an upset, I thought like a 3 pointer at the buzzer. Like I just thought it was gonna be one of those like, all right, look at like the little guy is like just hanging in there with the big guy all game long, and it was the exact opposite. Like if you would have switched their jerseys, it would have like it would have made so much more sense because it was just
Mm-hmm.
like you said. I mean, Loyola just looked like the better team. It looked like they wanted to be there. They had a better game plan. I mean, maybe it's just Krutwig was just on fire, and sometimes people just have those kinds of games. But I mean, even at the end when Krutwig, I think my favorite play of the game was when he just like swiped the ball away from Ayo Dosunmu. It
Yeah,
was it was
that's when I said I was like, you're a National Player of the Year candidate. Could have been National Player of the Year if you didn't break your nose, and that's the effort you're going to put forth in the NCAA tournament. Like, come on, man.
yeah. It's like I mean, this is a guy essentially like diehards had heard of him a month ago, but essentially a guy no one ever heard of, just like made one of the top 5 draft picks in the NBA. Like honestly, like I don't know how to word this. I was gonna say just looks stupid. Like for one play, he made him look stupid. It's not like not that he played terribly. I actually did. I actually don't know his stats, but Io definitely didn't play good that game. I don't know what his stat line was, but um, dude, it was just they just yeah, like you said, they deflated him. But it was almost from the start, so I don't know what started it. Like, why did they? It's like, did they see Loyola like warming up in the locker room, and they were like, damn, that Crutwood guy looks really good. Like, I don't know, especially because Kofi Coburn had such a great game too. It's like I don't know how they got dominated like that. It really is like it's baffling, and I called it to happen, and it still was surprising. Like I think that's how good Loyola played,
With
and
the janitor Crutwig at Loyola Chicago and the rest of the boys taking on Illinois.
and I just think it makes it so much better that Illinois has not scheduled them in the past. The Illinois fans coming at me on Twitter, that obviously just makes it just more fun. Um, but the in town, like in state rivalry, I think added to that. If I went to Loyola right now, or if I was like a recruit in Illinois, I would no. 'Cause I don't think he's gonna be coaching there long now. Like the farther they make it in this, almost makes it the more rare because how do you repeat this consistently?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if they can do this year after year, but boy oh boy, it's fun right now. Sister Jean's loving it. um, then Aiden, I'll let you take these couple games because I think you were more right on these ones than I was. I don't know if you were quote unquote hot on Oregon State, but I was hot on Tennessee and Oklahoma State to the point where I kind of was just proven wrong in this section of the bracket.
I was never hot on Tennessee. I was hot on Oklahoma State. I was really hot on Oklahoma State. So I mean, Oregon State, what made me look silly? I mean, I said they're a fluke just because they've made it through the Pac-12 championship, but clearly I was wrong on that one, and I'm shocked to see a number 12 right there. I really am. Just I thought Kate Cunningham and co would have a little more to say than the loss to Oregon State. Kind of deflating, but I mean that's what happens. 10-point loss. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that was the 12-5 upsets I get. But for Oregon State to make it, I am like genuinely I'm almost more surprised by Oregon State than I am Oral Roberts. So that's crazy to say, and I get like on paper Oral Roberts is the bigger upset, but the way Oregon State has just been winning. I mean, what are they on a 5-game like elimination winning streak right now? That's absurd.
Yeah.
That just for a team that was picked to come in dead last in their conference, by the way. So
Yep.
it's like not like this was a mediocre Pac-12 team. This was supposed to be a bad Pac-12 team. It's incredible. That's that. Like I said, that's one of the most surprising things I think of this bracket right now. Um, and in a way, I think it kind of takes the allure out of the matchup we have now coming up with Loyola Oregon State. I don't think really has a ring to it like Loyola versus Cade Cunningham would have had. Obviously, the networks would have I think hyped it up more. It's their job. I mean, they should just hype it up either way. Like you want people to watch either way. So I don't see how that benefits. But anyway, and then this other part of the region, I kind of was wrong as you can be almost because Houston was a point away from essentially me having everything wrong in this bracket but Loyola.
Yeah.
West Virginia, I'm not surprised by Syracuse making it as less that I'm surprised West Virginia couldn't get it done. Which that game was a close game too. I think you would have played for another minute. I think West Virginia actually might have won that game, but Syracuse put on a clinic on how to come out hot in a game. And like we jokingly always say, I mean, Syracuse is either going to lose in the first round or make it to the Elite Eight or Final Four, really. And here they are, they're halfway there. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, watching that game, Derek Culver had another incident. Not incident, but he just had one of his games that he just wasn't making it happen. I think he shot like 1 for 8 from the field. Huggins took him out the entire second half, and Sean McNeil carried the team in the second half. Him and Miles McBride played their asses off in the second half. Really did just to weather the storm because Syracuse came out so hot, Boeheim came out so hot, hitting just 3 after 3 over everyone. And I mean, McNeil and McBride, they just weathered the storm and they really got it back. I mean, Sean McNeil had an incredible game. I think he was like 6 for 9 for 3 or something on the game. Made it happen on the defensive end of the floor too, as best as he could. But I mean, in the end, when you don't have a presence and an elite big like Culver down there making plays and wreaking havoc against that zone, it's tough to beat a hot shooting Syracuse team.
Yeah, yeah, that was wild. And then the last part of the bracket here was Rutgers, man. I had that as a one of my like points in the bracket where I'm like, I don't know what like Houston I think's gonna win, but I really just had that feeling like, but it's like it was Rutgers' year last year. Like maybe they'll do it this year. And boy, they were close, man. They were Rutgers.
They
Is that
were.
the game Rutgers like choked? Weren't they up like
Yes,
double
they
digits?
did. I think they're up like 7 or 8 down the stretch in the second half, and Houston just bullied their way back into it. That was a gritty game. Both very gritty teams. Houston offensive rebounded the crap out of the ball that game, and Dijon Zero was a big storyline, playing with an injured hip, willing them the victory. Grimes played great too.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, Rutgers was close to being a darling, but there's so many other double digit seeds. It's like I feel like no one even would have been talking about Rutgers anyway. So it's
Yeah.
like you might as well just have some chalk and let a 2 seed squeak through. Jeez, it's so crazy. All right, halfway point. Let's unless you have anything else that you wanted to hit on.
Oh, I think we hit on all of it pretty good.
Um, I mean, just as a umbrella point, obviously. I mean, we're at the what's the stat? 5.88 is the average seed left. It's the highest ever since like what the 80s. So that just tells you about the madness we've seen, and it really was. I mean, now like looking at this, trying to just do that right now was so hard because there was so much that happened. It was fun. It was a fun first 4 days. Is my takeaway. Um, all right, so I guess want to start back in the West. Do you have anybody now, Aiden? It's your second chance. Let's remind everybody here. It's our second chance brackets. You don't necessarily have to have had this team winning earlier. It's the whole point of the second chance. Are you giving anybody a second chance to make it out of the West?
No.
I love the hesitation.
No. There's nothing to this one. I mean, the 6-7 matchup's going to be great, but there's nothing to this region. Unless you want to enlighten me on why Creighton's going to beat Gonzaga.
Well, not even that. I don't even know if the winner of USC Oregon could beat them either. I don't. I really don't actually. No, I'm trying to give like a. I think I said it last episode. I think their toughest game was going to be Oklahoma, and it kind of was, at least in the first half. I mean, Oklahoma was at least keeping it close, and then Gonzaga do what they do, and they just pulled away. But maybe USC has the raw talent, but they don't have as many dudes. Oregon might be able to just play well and keep it. I don't know, man, dude. It's like hard to talk myself into an upset here. Like it's hard. Part of you wants to just be like, oh well, it's March. Like everybody else is lost. Why can't they? But
Which
I
they
don't.
can, which they can. But I mean, rationally speaking, you're probably not going to pick any of these teams.
Yeah. You have a thought on USC Oregon or no?
I'm gonna take Oregon in this one. I love Chris Duarte, and I've loved him all season long. And I think Oregon's overall body of work bodes well for them in this game, just because they've been more consistent down the stretch over the course of the season. UFC does have a huge front line, but I think Oregon just has the experience and the star power to overcome it. I mean, and I like the veteran leadership of Oregon, and the transfer LJ Figueroa has come along and made a big difference. So yeah, I mean, I'm just more sold on Altman and Oregon.
Yeah, I think you actually just talked me into it. Because here, look. So I did for everybody too. Also, I kind of did the same thing I did with the first round. I just made like a key bracket where I filled out to as far as I thought I was gonna. And for the ones, honestly, I didn't change anything. I already had Gonzaga, Baylor, and Florida State in the Final Four, so I didn't have to change anything in 3 of the 4 regions there. The only thing I had to The only one I didn't fill out, Aiden, is that game. Is the USC Oregon game.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually think that's the hardest one to pick out of all of these. So watch. I mean, that's how these get busted. The second chance is like you always feel better because you're like, oh, I've seen games. I know how teams are playing.
Yeah.
And then it's just this is gonna get blown up too. But I think that's the toughest game to pick. And for that reason, I think it's easy to pick Gonzaga to go on. Because if you're flipping a coin already in the Sweet 16, what makes you think that the winner of that game can beat can beat Gonzaga? So I don't know there. And then Baylor's region, obviously I have Baylor. To wait, actually, too, I wanted to mention Gonzaga is a 13-point favorite in the Sweet 16. I just think that's bonkers. That's by far the highest spread. The next highest is Baylor -7. So Gonzaga's double a favorite of anyone else to this point. So that's kind of crazy. Baylor Villanova -7. I mean, it's almost like you just got to respect Villanova to this point. I think you actually said it more harshly than I would. They've kind of been favored to their matchups to this point. So do you like Baylor at -7 then almost? Or are you almost on that train then?
Yeah, I do like Baylor -7 on this one. I'm much more sold on Baylor after seeing what they did to Wisconsin.
Yeah, they finally played great again. I mean, I haven't seen them play a game like that in a while. I think I've said this before. It might have even been the last episode with you. I think my favorite half of a game I've watched all season long was Baylor versus Illinois, and they didn't play that good against Wisconsin, but it was like wow, like they're getting to that point again. Ken Palm actually has it -5, so they have it a little closer. Uh, Villanova might keep it close, but I'm going to throw his own words back in his face, and I probably shouldn't do this because he's a great coach. But Jay Wright, I don't remember the exact quote to be exact, but like after their game, I think they both played in Hinkle Fieldhouse, so he must have watched Baylor's game before their game. And he started the quote with, I feel like I just watched NBA players, like an NBA game when I watched the Baylor game. So, like, good luck preparing your, like, I hope your team didn't watch that post game interview. Because good luck telling your kids that you're gonna go beat Baylor when you just said you just watched an NBA game like take place. So I don't want to jinx anything though. So I'm like trying not to hype Baylor up too much. But if they play like they can, man, I'm excited and I'm with you. I like them. I just to win, man. I don't even want them to cover. Like I hope they do, but like let's
Win the damn game.
just survive in advance, man. That's the name of the game. And then, so actually, I lied earlier. Arkansas is the next best favorite after Gonzaga. They're -11 against Oral Roberts. I think this is a better way to phrase the question than who do you think is going to win. Do you think Oral Roberts can keep it as a single digit game? Like, can they keep it close? Can they keep us all excited at halftime? Are we gonna be watching this at halftime and be like, Cinderella?
Yeah, I say why not? I say they can keep it close. Why not?
But you have Arkansas going on?
No, yes, I do. I do.
Yeah, same. Actually, Ken Palm,
I hope they lose, but yes, I do have Arkansas moving on.
I don't, because I think in my bracket I have it on one of these. Yes, I have Baylor, Arkansas. I'm trying to climb up that national ranking.
You'd rather have Baylor play Arkansas in the Elite Eight than Baylor play Oral Roberts in the Elite Eight?
Yeah, I ain't scared of anybody with Gonzaga, honestly.
So you'd rather play Arkansas as a 3 seed rather than playing the 15 seeded Oral Roberts.
We gotta stay sharp, man. You're not gonna beat Gonzaga beating up on 15 seeds. That's what they do all year. We gotta do the opposite, man. You gotta stay hot. You can't have it. That's how you get caught, Aiden. That's what they want you to think. That's how you get caught.
Gonzaga smacked around the Big 12 earlier this year, crushing Kansas and beating West Virginia. I mean, I think they proved a little bit in the pre-conference.
It's true. I see what you're getting at. But no, because I think that would stress me out to the fact that we could lose to a 15 seed in the Elite Eight. I would rather lose to an Arkansas team that's ranked 3 that I think should have been ranked 2. So
yeah, and your hands will be nice and clammy on the Cavs either way.
Yeah, and I want to ride the must bus. I've always said this. I want to beat people at their best. I don't want to. Yeah.
But no matter how many shirts you sweat throughout the game.
It's all changed now. Sponsorship here alert. Carpe, if you want to be a sponsor on the pod, I got their. I don't have their product right here. I'd have to take the headphones off, but um, I don't even know where I'm going with this. This is a great ad read, Dave. This is why the podcast isn't sponsored. Um, yeah, so it's a sweat company that's supposed to have good deodorant. Helps you not sweat so much. Wow, that was terrible. I should have just stopped all those behind. All right, moving on. So Aiden, this is not good so far. We both have Gonzaga, Oregon, Baylor, Arkansas. That's not a good sign. Usually, when you agree on things in March Madness, it's when stuff
they go awry.
that's when stuff goes haywire. Let's do the East, I guess, next, which is Michigan's bracket because I think the other one's a little harder to guess. I think Michigan Florida State could be a great game, but Michigan State's -3. I got to ride with my Seminoles though in a new blood program, and my guy Leonard Hamilton, the Fountain of Youth. I like Florida State without Livers. This is where when I filled out my first bracket, I was like, can things get interesting? Can Livers come back by now? I think Livers is coming back if Michigan beats Florida State. That's a hot take. Um, but I don't think with him. I think Florida State. I mean, what? They're the tallest team in the country. They've been underranked all year by everybody except for me. Florida State.
I'm gonna ride with the front court in Dickinson and Wagner, and I'm gonna ride with the new era of energy in Michigan and Juwan Howard. And I just think they're gonna get it done anyway. I mean, this team plays with a lot of energy and they play with a lot of heart, and you can just tell that good vibes come from the team. And I don't know. I mean, they're a good tournament team even without even when Beeline was coaching the team. So I like Michigan in this one, and I like the storyline of Livers coming back in the Elite Eight and spicing things up a bit.
You think there's a chance he does?
I don't know. I haven't read up on it in a while.
I haven't heard a thing, which I think is probably I haven't looked, but I haven't heard either. So I feel like if there were rumblings, we would know about them. But man, that would be fun. That sure would be fun. Um, on the other side of this, you think Alabama, UCLA? I almost think Alabama's going to be a little colder. I don't know if I'm taking UCLA to cover at -6. Ken Palm actually has it -4. Um, I do like I almost feel like Alabama's like gonna go like an up down up down. Like they had their great game. Now they're gonna have like a because you can't shoot like that forever. I mean it's just not like physically possible. So I think Alabama's not as hot this time and gets past UCLA. But I do kind of like UCLA to give us all a scare here. Are you with me, or do you think Alabama just like cruises through?
I mean, UCLA is playing great right now. They're playing with a lot of energy with Johnny Juzang and Jamie Jacquez. I like UCLA. I mean, I'm impressed by what they've done in the tournament. I didn't see it coming, but I do think Alabama cruises to the victory here just because of their shooting and just their overall resume this year speaks better than UCLA's. So I have more trust in them. Quick word on Livers. Juwan Howard after the game said it would be miraculous if he came back for the NCAA tournament, but I'm still picking with my Michigan over Florida State pick.
Oh, I don't like that word. That's I was hoping for a little better news. Because I was just gonna say, I feel like I almost see. I'm picking Florida State to make the Final Four, but I almost think Alabama has the best chance to beat Gonzaga. So I almost want Alabama to make it because if Alabama shoots like they did the other night, I mean, I don't think anybody, Baylor or Gonzaga, can. They can keep up with them, but I think it makes it really, really, really hard. I mean, you gotta. I think Alabama has the stuff to put Baylor and Gonzaga in the best bind. But then I also think Florida State, I've said this all year, Florida State and Baylor, I think have the two deepest teams in the country. So I think Florida State could actually give Gonzaga a challenge in the Final Four that they haven't seen all year because I just like Florida State's, like, you always hear it. They're athletic, they're long, they're deep, but it's all true. Would I pick them in a game with a gun to my head? I probably not. I'll probably pick Gonzaga. I mean, I have Gonzaga winning in my original bracket, and here in my second chance bracket, I have Gonzaga over Florida State. So do you have Gonzaga Michigan or you have Gonzaga Alabama?
I have Gonzaga, Alabama.
Do you think Alabama has a chance to knock them off? Like I was kind of saying, if they're
Yeah,
hot.
absolutely. If a team's shooting hot at the right time, they can beat anyone. And Alabama cruised, not cruised, but they won the SEC tournament, and they're hot right now, and they are honestly can arguably be a number one seed. And they're probably playing pissed off right now because they don't have that number one, and they saw what happened to Illinois.
Yeah, I feel them. I did I have them as a number one? I feel like I had them as a number one seed over Illinois, but I don't think I went that. I don't think I went that crazy. I went pretty bold. I didn't go. I don't know. You're right. They were. I mean, they were in that borderline. I almost thought you should have the SEC champion or somebody instead of two Big Ten teams there as one seeds, but nobody listens to me until Iowa and Illinois and Ohio State get knocked out in the first two rounds. And then they still don't listen to me, but that's okay. Hayden, we'll just keep chugging along, right? That's what we got to do.
We can do.
So this is super. I'm going trendy here, Aiden, and I probably shouldn't because I've had Houston like other teams that have been doing well in this tournament. I've had Houston ranked higher in my personal rankings than in other rankings they've been all year. Um, so I should be riding Houston to the Final Four. But dude, I gotta go Sister Jean, man. I got Loyola in their second Final Four, which I think is bonkers because I did not have that before these second chance brackets because I thought West Virginia and Oregon State were too good. But I think this region just opened up for them. I mean, this is. I'll be so shocked if Oregon State makes it. That's the only team here. I'm like, if they make it to the Final Four, I'll stop podcasting. like, that will be so surprising to me. Who do you have matchups in this region coming out?
I like Syracuse over Houston. I think Syracuse could just shoot the lights out and beat Houston. Houston doesn't shoot the ball very well, but they are great on the offensive end of the offensive rebounding end. But I think Syracuse is hot and they're great in the tournament, and for some reason they always win in the tournament, whether they're on the bubble or not. And I like Loyola Chicago over Oregon State, and then I'm rolling with the Ramblers to the Final Four because they're definitely underseeded.
Let's go. All right. Um, yeah, I'm with you. I only am picking Houston, like I said in that game, for kind of my rankings reasons. Like, all right, they've been a good team all year. Let's see if they can continue to be a good team. But like you said, Syracuse is just so hard to prepare for. But I do think there's an advantage here this year, whereas Houston's getting a lot of time to at least practice the zone. I don't know how well their quote their I don't know how to. I was gonna say their B team, but that's not right. But their guys in practice have to mimic the zone. You know what I mean? You're not playing against another team's starters doing the zone when you have to practice it. And I think that's why teams struggle with it against Syracuse, especially that second game of the weekend. It's always, the first round matchup, at least you have from Selection Sunday on to prepare and practice. But that next one, I mean, you only got a day. And then so here with this one, it's like you normally have a couple days, but usually they're playing again on Thursday. We're not playing again until Saturday now.
Yeah.
And then the next, I almost think if Syracuse wins, it's almost like they're going to win again. It's almost like they're an automatic, so maybe we should have Syracuse in the Final Four. because Loyola's only going to have a day to prepare for that stupid zone. And it's like, I love it. It's like, I have such a love-hate relationship with Syracuse, and I think we all do. Even Syracuse fans are just like, they make you sweat it out to a 10, 11 seed, like you suck all year long, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're playing Loyola for a shot at the Final Four. It's like, that wouldn't surprise me. I like that. I like your pick there. But I don't like that we both picked Loyola because now I'm a little less convinced of it. And then, did we do the South already? Yeah, we did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have consensus. We have Gonzaga, Baylor. I have Florida State. You have.
I have Michigan.
Michigan, and we both have Loyola.
Yes, we do.
All right. So 2 1s, 8, and I have a 4, and you have a 2.
I have a 1. No. I have Alabama in the Final Four. What am I saying?
Yeah, that's the 2. They're the 2, right?
Yeah, I think I just said Michigan. It's late. I'm tired.
That's true. This is where you get the.
I'm Oregon State in the national championship game. Sorry.
I will stop podcasting. You heard that here first. If Oregon State beats Baylor, I, dude, I can't.
You can't watch a Baylor basketball game until the tournament next year.
That's such a fair punishment. That's not even like I honestly I might like I wouldn't like. No, all right, we're not even gonna. We can't even speak that into existence. Um, that's funny. This is where you get the good moments on the podcast, though. You're like, I'm tired, because I feel like that's when Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander on their podcast, they always are like, it's 1 a.m. on the East Coast, and Gary like GP always just says something ridiculous, and you're just like, what? I love that. That's what I think is like the best part of podcasts, honestly.
Oh yeah, gotta add some character into it.
Um,
Fall asleep the whole time.
all right, so everybody, those are our second chance. And honestly, Aiden, those actually sound like good Final Fours, like a 1-1-4-8 or a 1-1-2-8. That sounds like a Final Four to me. Like those,
Yeah.
I can mess with that.
Yeah, we're like a 1-4-3-2 or 1-2-3-4 or like 1-4-5-1.
Like this year, everybody had 1-1-1-2 or 1-1-1-3 because they had Texas, and I was just like, there's no way. There's no way it's gonna end like that. But I couldn't pick against Gonzaga or Baylor either. So I was like, I have 1-1-2. So I was like, where do I? You gotta.
The Final Four I've always been waiting to see is the 1-5-5-5. Like that would be great.
Yeah, that's wild. And it took me a lot. It took me years to get to that point because I think it might have been the first year. It was 1-1-1-1. Was I think 2008? Am I right on that? Or 2009?
2009.
It was one of those. So I think I was in 8th grade. So God, who knows what grade you were? And we're aging ourselves here on this one.
2008 was Kansas, North Carolina. Who did they beat? Who did Kansas beat in 2008?
I don't remember. I just remember Kansas was a 1 and it was all 4 1s.
Kansas and North Carolina were 1s. And I forgot who they beat. Wait, did they beat?
It must have been 2000, because then 2009 was when UNC won as a 1.
Kansas beat Derrick Rose and Memphis in 2008.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And then the next year was the Tyler Hansbrough championship year?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they beat, they beat Michigan State. It was one of those years.
So from that point on is like when I that's when I like started actually making bracket groups, and I remember 8th grade was like the year I really got into it. And so I always kind of thought, like, for me, that was like my history of the NCAA tournament. Was like, oh, like the 1 seeds are really good, and like we haven't even been close to that since. So it's taken me up until like 3 years ago. I've really been like, now I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I am not picking all 1 seeds no matter what. Like 2008 was a freak thing that got me in trouble. Like,
yeah.
So, I like it. All right, Aiden. Outside of Gonzaga, Baylor, Loyola, Florida State, and Alabama, outside of the teams we picked in our Final Fours, who's got the best shot to bust us both?
I mean, I guess the easy pick is Michigan, but I'll go with Arkansas because, I mean, they've been hot for a long time. I mean, they stumbled in the SEC tournament, but great three-point shooting team. They have a lot of star power on that team, led by Moses Moody. Got J.D. Note on that team. So, I mean, I guess Arkansas because they play a 15 seed, so I guess in the Elite Eight. Pull the upset not of the century, but pull the upset against Baylor, and then there's no Gonzaga until the finals, and when you get to the finals, anything can happen. So I'll go with Arkansas. Exciting team too.
I'm with you. Those are, as I asked you, I was kind of like scanning to see to see my own answer, and it'd probably be Arkansas for the exact reason you said. You can't say Michigan because they're the number 1 seed, so like that wouldn't be surprising. And you almost have the same thought with Houston. They're the 2 like.
Michigan, I'd be surprised. I'd be damn surprised if Houston made the Final Four or won the national championship. I don't think they have the star power to hang with Baylor or Gonzaga at all.
Yeah, me either. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the Final Four now. I didn't think they would if they had to
Yeah.
verse West Virginia and Oklahoma State, but now I don't know. I would go Syracuse for your reasons. I mean, if Syracuse gets past Houston, what's to say they can't get past Loyola and Oregon, and then once you make it to the Final Four, you got to take Baylor or Arkansas on. Allegedly, watch it's gonna be like Villanova. Um, I mean, that's crazy that we've kind of been talking for a half hour and we didn't even mention Villanova, and they're like the reigning champions 5 times in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
um,
2 times in the last 5 years.
I don't know, I was trying to be funny, but it wasn't. Um,
I went right over my head.
yeah, I realized after I said it, I was like, that's just gonna sound stupid. Like I was um, yeah, dude, that was I think we hit everything.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Um,
Always do.
well, yeah, right. Well, thank you for coming on. I know it's late on the East Coast, and I'm glad we got this in though on my lunch. I think this is better than me doing it by myself for 50 minutes because I would have just had to do that like late on Friday or before work on Friday. So, all right, people, that was an episode, and we'll see you next time. Cool.